Let's talk about throwing knives. Ugh. I missed. In all seriousness though, because this is a video, I can just keep editing until I get one in and I'll look like I know what I'm doing. See? See? Oh, we can edit that. See? Oh. Warm up, stretch. It's time to talk about, I missed completely, throwing knives. So I reckon I'll stand here this time. Are throwing knives really all that effective? Let's find out. That's crap. That was crap as well. All right, we need to talk about throwing knives. It's a bit too high. My aim is off. My aim is way up. It's much easier closer. All right, so we need to discuss if throwing knives are really all that good, right? Because we all know how easy they are to throw whenever you throw them. Just like that. And ready again. You see? Easy as that. Negative. Anything else? We need to talk about throwing knives. We need to talk about throwing knives. Hey. Throwing knives suck, man. Shadowversity. Yes, we're going to be talking about throwing knives here and discuss if they're really all that effective. And as you can see, I've got some fun ones here that I got. And of course, we're going to be going outside to throw them around a bit. And I'll share some of my thoughts while we're out there as well. You don't need pinpoint, especially in a medieval context. You just need good enough to hit center of mass at the right range. Problem is, I'm way too close. Like in real combat, this range is not that beneficial. All right, so. Way too high. Oh, I'm happy with that. But before we continue, I wanted to let you know how excited Oz, who works in the, say hi Oz.
Hello.
Oz was, I was surprised at how excited he was for the sponsor of this video. I'm not kidding. And I wish we recorded his response when I told him what the sponsorship was. And because we didn't record it, we're going to recreate it. And you think we might be overplaying it, but with how excited he was for the sponsor of this video, we're actually not exaggerating much at all.
Left no DNA evidence, and the cops had me on nothing. I was sweet, so.
Hey,
what's that?
New sponsorship.
What is it?
It is called Magic Spoon. Are you okay?
Dude, I've been trying to get this for months. Months. Really? Yeah.
So you've heard about it online?
I've heard about this. Other better YouTubers than me have been talking about it. Get me a bowl. It's actually good. Look, okay. No doubt this is my first time having it.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's
not like this sweet, like, you know.
Mm-hmm. So it's not a kick in the face?
It's not a kick in the face. Mm-hmm. It's a very nice, it's like a cocoa, you know?
That's right. This is good cereal. Yeah. You know, I was actually a bit unaware that cereal was a thing that kids did a lot because I actually eat cereal all the time, which is why I was very interested in this Magic Spoon sponsorship, because I'm always on the lookout for healthy cereal. It's actually high in protein, keto friendly, and that caught my eye because keto is a diet that a lot of people are trying out and is really working for them. It's also gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, wheat-free, and naturally flavored. So if you're allergic to something, chances are that you're probably not going to be affected by this. So get this, in each serving, 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each, so in each serving, and only 140 calories per serving. So that's like, this is like a super healthy cereal.
No, this smells like actual.
Is it? Okay, here you go. Or is digging in already. How is it, buddy?
Thumbs up.
So here's our most picky child. I'm not kidding. Like, if he doesn't like it, he will spit it out, and there's nothing I could say to tell him otherwise. I'm not kidding.
Can I
Just wait. First, I'm going to try blueberry. All right.
I want to try it. It's an old.
But it's actually really good. Not kidding. That is good cereal. I'll try fruity.
I'm gonna try this. Wait.
Yeah, this is good top tier cereal. I'm not kidding. Like, you expect super healthy stuff.
No,
Honestly, I was a bit worried. Super healthy stuff to just not be the same as good quality, tasty stuff. And this is top tier. This is actually really good. I think the best compliment we can give is that this little guy, Thor, is into it. I'm not kidding. 2 nights ago, I had to send him to bed because he wouldn't eat his dinner because he was just flat out refused.
It's a crumbly, weird blueberry. It's my blueberry. Milk.
No, you won't even share it. All right, so Magic Spoon is doing a special deal. If you click the link below, you can get a variety pack, and all you need to do is use the promo code SHAD, just S-H-A-D, and you get $5 off any of your orders. All you have to do is go to magicspoon.com/SHAD. And also, they're so confident in their product that they're backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. If you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money. So there's no questions asked, just straight up like that. And that's magicspoon.com/SHAD. All right, so throwing knives. Are they any good? Honestly, I feel they've been a bit overhyped as to how incredible they are, and it's a coolness factor because they're fun. They're really, really fun. Even having gotten these throwing knives I'm holding here, when I'm holding, I just want to throw it. It's just like this, they're beautifully balanced. And I'm not saying that there isn't areas in which I think they might serve a use, but let's try and figure out what that really is. As a primary combat weapon, this is where I think they've been quite overhyped because there are some things that just work very poorly in their favor. The first is their likelihood of injury. They are not the easiest, weapon to try and figure out how to throw, but there are masters out, don't get me wrong. And so if we were to just consider you're a master knife thrower, how lethal would they be? That again depends because you need to get almost pinpoint, perfect, hit to potentially do lethal damage. But the first thing is the knife you're throwing needs to have enough weight that could penetrate deep enough to be lethal. There's a lot of throwing knives that are just this big that's very unlikely to do lethal damage. And in a full-on, combat situation, and we're looking at battlefield, but also fantasy situations, self-defense as well, and stuff like that. The fact that people can lift their arms and block, like if someone does this when a knife is thrown at them, that reduces their lethality potential massively. And you need something as heavy as this, wouldn't kill them if it hits them in the arms. They're blocking the main arteries of the neck. And so already we're running into some severe limitations with the throwing knife's effectiveness as even not only primary combat weapons, but backup weapons that have the potential to fully kill someone. There's a lot of limitations that we just honestly need to acknowledge.
Not just blocking, but also dodging.
Dodging. Thank you. This is a great point.
You want to throw something at me to demonstrate? Like a bottle or... Yeah, throw a bottle at me.
Are you sure?
Absolutely, man.
All right.
I'll try to dodge it.
All right. Oz has brought up a very important point, that the velocity in which knives travel at make them much more easy to dodge. He has volunteered, not me. He's like, I said no. He's like, no, I'll do it. He wants me to throw a bottle at him and he's going to dodge. Okay, so that would have missed anyway. Try again. Ready? That would have missed it. I'm aiming too high. This is because they're so light.
Shad, I'm not the thinnest guy, okay? You can hit me.
That was going right for his head and Oz dodged. Thank you for the demonstration sacrifice, Oz. This is stale old water. How long has this been out here? So genuinely, that is actually a big problem with knives if they're far more dodgeable than other projectiles, because this is where throwing knives fall off a bit. Now, like I said, I think there is some area in which they could, maybe one, serve a useful purpose. We'll get there. But we have to acknowledge these limitations. And so when compared to other ranged weapons of war, they travel at a much slower velocity compared to something like an arrow shot from a bow. Drastically, they have a wider profile so you can see it when spinning, unless you throw it because this is the other thing. If you were to compare throwing knives to other thrown weapons of similar size, you do have things like war darts. And when I say, there are war darts and then there are war darts. It's like a giant arrow. So you have the Roman, like I think it's the plum, they're weighted throwing darts, okay? Honestly, more lethal because of penetration, easy to use because you don't have to time spin, and probably weigh even a bit less than throwing. So if you wanted a hand-throwing kind of hero, adventurer, or something like that, honestly, if you're looking at it wholly just practically, there are weapons of equivalent size that are sometimes lighter, more lethal, and easier to throw. Bang, bang, in all aspects superior to the throwing knife. The other big limitation is range. You can throw them effectively for the length that you can throw things. And because their weight is not perfectly distributed to kind of catch weight, or they're a bit heavier, you can't throw them as far as other things that can achieve the same purpose, like the plum butter, the Roman plum butter. Something like that achieves everything they want. And again, because they're lighter, easier, you could actually throw them further as well. Now, because there are some kind of fantasy, but also action hero characters that use these quite a lot, almost as their primary weapon, they do need to be compared to other primary range weapons like a bow, crossbow, that are not ballistic-based weapons. So, but of course, guns, there's no contest. But to other, I almost consider them analog weapons. There's like the ballistic ones are digital, and the medieval or human-powered ones are analog. Anyway, there's no comparison in terms of range, lethality, and things like that. But there is a big difference in something like a bow or crossbow, is how easily they are to grab when you're just carrying them to being thrown. You grab a throwing knife, it's ready to be thrown right away. With the bow, you need to grab it, grab the arrow, and so this is what makes a difference between a throwing weapon versus something like a bow or crossbow, because they're not thrown. But even when just considering throwing weapons, like I said, the plum butter does everything you need and more, and doesn't have severe limitations. A lot of these criticisms apply to a lot of types of shuriken, but even more so to the classic ninja stars, because with ninja stars, they specifically have very oftentimes small points that will not penetrate nearly deeply enough, even though they're easy to throw and probably easy to aim as well. They're not as lethal as certain, but all right, if you say, what if you get a really big ninja star? Because then you're basically increasing the weight to get like points everywhere, and by the weight of the weapon will determine how much you can carry and also how much room they take up. So those are problems as well with Ninja Star Shuriken. I know Shuriken doesn't always apply to just Ninja Stars alone. And also when I mention Ninja Death Stars, I'm talking about the throwing weapons, not the Japanese dub of Star Wars. So I actually think throwing knives are superior to Ninja Stars. It just takes a little bit more skill to learn, but once you have the skill, all power to you. Okay, other thing about a throwing knife, all right, is, you know what I found out about these ones? They're actually really great knives. They're very basically made. It's all like, I think it was first die pressed out of a single piece of steel, and then they ground the edge on everything. But the weight is great. These feel awesome in the hand. They're just like, whoo, I think these are great knives. Why would you want to throw it and lose it? Because the other thing is this, if we talk about the economic cost of knives, if you're in a big battle and you're running around and you're just throwing knives at enemies and stuff like that, are you going to be in a position to be able to, wait, or everyone's done and we need to go back to where we fought the guy over that hill. I need to get my knives out. So oftentimes you're going to be losing a lot, because sometimes you would just lose them. And the cost of replacing something like this is going to be much higher than, say, replacing an arrow or even a plum butter. It started to rain outside, so we'll finish the discussion about throwing knives in here. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about, Oz was insistent, is that if there's so many problems with them, are they as bad as nunchucks? And Oz thinks they are.
Yep, awful. Just as bad.
I'm not sure. And look, he's ragging on that nunchucks getting old, but the thing is, they're a great baseline, a good point of reference to be like, if this is as good or worse than nunchucks, it means the weapon's really bad. If it's better, it could be like it's the beginning point of bad, overhyped weapons. First off, they're more lethal than nunchucks. The problem is that if we're just looking at one of these by themselves, it's one use, essentially. And you could potentially be giving your opponent the weapon to use against you, and these are really good in the hand. The other redeeming thing that I think they might be not as bad as nunchucks is because of how good they are in other uses outside of being thrown. This is actually a great knife. It has got a good taper. This would be lethal as anything. It can cut, it can thrust, it's got perfect length to it. It's really versatile, feels great in the hand. It's just if we were to consider knives just outside of the throwing potential, knives are brilliant weapons, and for the context in which they're used in, we put them in my analysing weapons into the wildcard category because they're really great in a specific thing. I'm not saying they're better than in actual melee than bigger weapons, but they're super useful for very specific purposes. But if we were to consider just only thrown, like a throwing knife by itself that cannot be used in melee, like you throw it, how good are they? Well, I would probably say they're almost as bad as nunchucks. The balance thing is the one use. They're more lethal, but they are they though? Because again, if you block, maybe not.
But also the requirements, man. The requirements to be...
There's a high skill ceiling, exactly. Yeah. You just can't give this to a noob and they could use it. Yeah. And so that's a big problem in its detriment.
This doesn't go, but nunchucks, right? When you hit someone with them, it requires the swing. With those, sure, it's spinning, but it has to be dead on almost. Yeah. It actually be lethal. That's the difference. Like, look at a bow. Straight the whole time. Spear, straight the whole time. Those things... There
is a use to them still that I think makes them probably... again, this use is so specific, it doesn't really redeem them. But I think it is there could be a purpose to throwing knives, right? And it's as a last resort, also as a distraction to a follow-up with something more lethal.
Okay, Batman.
Yeah.
Theatricality and deception and powerful agents.
They are. That's actually a true thing, though. So if someone is rushing you, right, and they are not going to pick up this knife because they have something better in there, they're using something better, they're not armoured, all these things. There's a lot of situations, because if they're armoured, these are basically useless. But even chainmail. This throne, I have high doubts it would pierce chainmail.
But
in your hand...
You can get close in
But in the situations in which you would throw a knife, right, I think would be last resort. If this was your last... And yet they're too far away, can't do anything, maybe. Distraction. This is an interesting one, because if you had a better weapon, like a sword, right, and it was a two-handed sword, and so you don't think you're going to get much use out of, off-handing this thing and doing, things. It doesn't have a great cross guard to parry stuff, so it's definitely not a parrying dagger. Okay, because you have something better, you're not going to use it, and so this could be useful as a quick, thing where you're getting in range and everything, and that. I think it's quite likely that if you do that, the opponent is going to react to it. If they're unarmored and they're not protected, this is a big bladed thing. The fact that people might think it's not very lethal, you don't want to be hit with it, and it's intimidating, especially one as big as this. It would be very hard not to go flinch or move out or something, because I think this has high distraction capacity, and that distraction, if you're understanding combat, and also when you've done a lot of sparring and stuff like that, the opening from still to attack and death can be so small. It's so quick. And if this can create an opening enough to you get a lethal hit with your sword, that makes them pretty brilliant in a very specific use.
But it doesn't balance with the fact that if you miss, well, you've lost a weapon now.
But if you already have a main weapon, it's no loss.
Well, even then, you still got to recover from that. You throw it, okay, now I'm ready.
Oh, but that you could be braced for pretty darn quickly, especially because this is one of the advantages of the slow movement of it, because when you throw it, there is a fraction of the time it takes for them to move to hit the opponent. The opponent is going to be, very likely reacting to it, and that's easy enough time to quickly and grab. You can throw it, grab, and charge, and if someone's doing this while you're charging, remember, they then have to recover from their flinch, and that even small fraction of time actually can be a game changer.
Do you know about police drawing times? So, if the cops tell you this all the time, if they're within 20 metres and they're running at you, within 20 metres you don't have enough time to pull your gun out and get a shot off. They will stab you. So, if put that to an arming thing, within 20 metres running at you, you won't be able to hit them.
But that's already charging. If you have an opponent where you're both facing off and everything, and they're not paying attention, and you just, turn on your side and they're not already charging, you quickly do that.
Can you underarm that?
I can't throw underarm, but people certainly can.
I mean, so interesting, right? This concept of the distraction has been what some people have put forward as a defense for the throwing the pummel technique in the longsword community. It's the end them rightly. Scarlegrim started the meme, but he did make a video where it's like, all right, is there a situation which this could work? And his defense is like, the distraction factor. If you throw something at someone, make him flinch, that could be a game-changing thing to let you win the fight. And if it enables you to win the fight, that's pretty big, okay? The thing is, though, where I kind of, press F to doubt is like, it's a pummel. I don't know. If people could register knife, crap, there's a much higher chance of them flinching than pummel or just moving object close to you.
If French cavalry can run straight into English longbow, well, not be fine, but...
Well, that's where it's a problem. Yeah, like if people just like unfazed, yeah, problem. So, having said all that, right, we're kind of reaching to our ultra-specific situation which these are useful. Are there times in which it might be useful, okay? We're going to try and strongman it, right? Is if you have nothing better. You have a knife that you... No, if you have a knife, I'm talking about nothing better to hit range targets, okay? Good. I'm glad you called me out on it, right? But if you had a knife that... And look, this could actually be substituted to any throwable, somewhat lethal thing. Like the concept of throwing knife doesn't come from ones that are specifically made to be thrown that are better balanced for it. But if you wanted the option, you could go out of your way. Because this could be... You could have this for the intent of using it as a regular knife. But for the off chance in which you might throw it, you've purposely gone one that's balanced and better for throwing than others. Because this is a great knife just by itself. I've already mentioned that, okay? And so the no other option, nothing better scenario is when I say you don't have anything better to throw. You have your sword, all right? When I'm talking in more medieval circumstances, fantasy, adventuring circumstances as well, you don't have a bow, you don't have a thing, but there's an enemy that's too far away for you to hit. He might be escaping, he might be doing something, he might be about to do a death blow to your companion, and you need, in that moment, a ranged weapon that you can get to quickly.
Congratulations, you found the one use when he was about to be killed and you're 50 metres away.
Well, I mean, if it's your life on the line, Oz, I think you would be grateful that I had this ready to be thrown. That could save your life.
Yeah, but if you miss, then you're the next one that's dead because you disarmed yourself.
No. Remember I said you have your main weapon, right? And you'd have nothing else to hit range. And so this is where, all right, I think we're finding a redeeming feature with a knife because it's a multi-purpose thing. A plumbutter, am I saying that? Mm-hmm. Plumbutter? Yeah. Is not like it doesn't have nearly as much versatility as a knife. This is a useful thing. And so if I just have knife, meant to be used as a knife, that can double up as being thrown, I think there's a lot of utility as just in case, the just in case factor, because it's much more likely I might have this on me than plumbutter that are specifically made to be thrown. But that's not, I wouldn't load myself up if that's because they're not lethal as thrown weapons, but as backup, multi-purpose, I think that there's some validity to that, isn't there? I think so.
It's very, very, very circumstantial.
But if you're in that circumstance, you'll be more grateful you had it than if you're in the circumstance and didn't have it. Exactly, and it's more likely you would have a knife than a plumbutter. Okay? But if we're just looking at the character type that is a throwing, that's their thing, throwing knives, right? One, there's a lot of problems with it, just not only the range, the lethality and things, the weight. Like, if you wanted ones that were hefty enough to have high chance of doing lethal damage, something like this, if you even had 20 on you, that's actually a pretty heavy load. Like, these together weigh about as much as an arming sword almost. Let's try and be fair, right? Because there's the actual big size war darts. I've done a video on it. Todd's Workshop has some videos on it. Those have more range, they're easier to throw, and they're more lethal, all right? They are single use, granted, but in terms of weight, because they're made out of wood, they might weigh just about as much as this, you know? And so going back to the idea of the throwing knife warrior, right? Like 20 of these might end up weighing, I don't know, 6 kilos or something. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating, but that's only 20 attacks, essentially, that unless you're able to pick them up as you go, you're running out. And so just by the fact of the difficulty of carrying enough ammunition, you're really screwing yourself over a lot.
And also, let's say you're successful. You're on the battlefield, you throw it, sticks right into someone's gut, and they fall over. Well, now it might be buried inside of them and in the ground.
Yeah, I mean...
But a spear, not going to happen.
Yeah, we'll talk about range stuff though. Arrows are just as easy as to retrieve, just as hard.
Spear.
Spears are more cumbersome. That would be harder to carry a lot. 20 spears, you could I will say, you could carry 20 of these easier than 20 javelins.
You have a better odd with javelin, won't you?
Yeah, but javelins are like when we say war javelin, we're looking at the war dart. That's essentially what they are. They're historical. They existed. They are vastly more lethal. Those are battlefield weapons that were used historically in battlefields, and also range. Far better range. I think the range limitation of throwing knives is a big detriment to them. And so overall, unfortunately, throwing knives are, I think, I come to my same conclusion. I think they're more largely overhyped. There are uses for them. But I really think the dedicated knife-throwing warrior, not really.
They see most use on the set of Hell's Kitchen when a chef, defies Gordon Ramsay. And then they die.
So, you know the character I think about who's like a largely throwing knife guy? It's the guy that Jason Statham plays in The Expendables. His shtick is throwing stuff, if you remember.
I thought it was the Asian dude.
No, it's Jason Statham.
Oh, okay.
I think it is. But there is a trope of a warrior whose main thing are knives and throwing knives. And I don't mind a warrior whose main weapon is knives, but if they're only throwing them,
Bullseye. Superhero. Bad guy.
Is his main thing only throwing? I know it's but is it only knives?
It's almost exclusively throwing things.
Yeah, but it's shuriken, is it? But I guess
He
you're
throws
right.
everything, man.
Yeah,
You
he
can
does.
have a lamp and throw it and kill you.
You're right. But he should use plum butter,
Yeah.
bullseye, just with these darts. But I think he even has those, doesn't he? I'm sure he throws a dart
He picks
sometime.
up anything and throws it.
Well, if you were so superhuman that you never miss, that you could always kill someone with a single throw, because again, we've been saying one of the big problems is lethality because you can block and stuff, but if you could do it so quickly that you would get in between even their thing, well, they could probably get away with it,
He killed a dude with a paperclip.
But this is the thing, if you're that perfect aiming at throwing things, you'd be even better at aiming with a gun. No, that's what they did in Ultimate Marvel, Hawkeye. They give him a gun. And there's one point where he just gives up the bow and picks up a gun. And I'm like, your lethality and effectiveness is probably just skyrocketed, Hawkeye.
To be fair, though...
Seriously, it's hard to justify a bow when you have guns.
But what if you got one of those guys who used a plumbarda and then you gave him a gun from back in the whatever century?
Yeah, well, we've changed it. A lot of the discussion has just been only medieval technology, like history and also fantasy setting and stuff. Because when you bring in guns, it's very hard to justify.
Great equalizer.
Unless you have shields that block guns, but then shields should probably block thrown stuff as well. So one of the ways they try and justify bows and arrows, like Hawkeye, Green Arrow, and stuff, is that arrows can have special payloads in the arrowhead, like an explosion or trick arrows and things.
It's like a missile.
And it's cool. They get by. They encourage people not to think about it a lot because it's just the cool factor. But guns can actually have specific, special payloads at times as well. And especially in a fantasy setting, if you just want to handwave the technology, a gun that blows up with an explosive head, you could just easily justify that with especially comic book technology. Yeah.
Bullets explode.
Other ways that arrows can curve. Arc. That might be that. They're quiet. All right. Even though movies and comic books bullcrap silences to the point where they make no noise when they don't. They actually make a still distinctly loud sound. But look, I guess we're getting off topic. But
anything but talking about the knives.
It's just kind of funny because it's not much. There's issues. They are overhyped.
30 arrows with those things.
But in conclusion, those specific examples, I think, you could be justified in having a throwing knife or even 3. They're not, because 3 wouldn't weigh you up too much, and it's obviously, you're saying by only carrying 3, these aren't primary things. They're just backup in case kind of weapons. And for a distraction, and for that time when you need a ranged weapon, and you decide to not go for a plumbutter because it's just way better, because really, if you needed a backup ranged weapon that's easy to grab and throw and lethal and stuff, yeah, good old plumbutter would do it.
they're so bad that I've got all of them saved in Dark Souls for if I run out of like magic.
The range in Elden Ring throwing daggers are way... It's funny, you always hit if you auto-target, but the range is way higher than in reality, and the damage is also way higher. Like, those throwing knives do a surprising amount of damage when you're beginning low level. So there we go. Throwing knives, what do you think? I look forward to seeing them in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, of course. And of course, I hope to see you on the next video here on Shadowversity. So, they're fun. Maybe that's why they get... Because, look, I will admit, these are just damn fun to throw. It's a fun thing. That's why we want to use them in media or anything, because they're cool. And that's the thing that overhypes them. But anyway, until that time, farewell.